Hello and welcome to RuggaMatrix International episode 208. And as you can see by the title on the screen down there, it's the final 8. And as you can see, the arrangement's a bit different. Ben Kimber is over there. G'day, Ben.
G'day, Bronk. Very, very nice over here on the left too. Good angle.
Yeah, it's very good. I think Casho loved that. He calls it the Barbara Walters angle.
Right.
The Vaseline on the lens. Now we've got the great man over our shoulder. G'day, Cash Cow, live from the northern beaches. I hear you have one of the great rugby stalwarts up there and a good friend of ours as well, and a relation, I guess, of the family.
Yeah, my father-in-law, boys. Phil Wilkins is here. He's off to the World Cup tomorrow morning. I'm driving me out to the airport, and away he goes. Quarterfinal, semi-final, third place playoff, and also the final. So one of the great rugby writers, Phil Wilkins, is here, and as I said, my father-in-law, great to have him on board. We've had a couple of reds before the program, but we're breaking away from dinner and having a chat about rugby. How good's that?
Oh, it's fantastic, mate. We appreciate all the effort you're going through and sacrificing that couple of minutes. Half an hour, you won't have the red anyway. So
nice for our viewers who think he's home. They can actually see he's home now, Bronk.
Yeah, but he didn't dress up, did he?
No.
Look at him. Unbelievable. That's where the Cash Cow Enterprises is taking place. So, gentlemen, we're down to the final 8, as we said, quarterfinals. So, South Africa up against Wales, New Zealand, France. Oh, they're going to love that. And, of course, Ireland getting through after beating France and getting through their quarterfinal against Argentina, and Australia will take on Scotland in the final quarterfinal. I'll start with you because you're here. It would be rude to go up to the screen. The quarterfinals, what do you think?
Mate, shaping up nicely. I think not just the teams probably that we expected to be there in a lot of ways, but the way that you can see teams coming into it. And, you know, being an old journo, you like to see the storylines, the things that you can follow. You can see that the teams that have had really big, long, hard runs in the group stages, are they battle hardened? Is that going to be what makes a difference for them? New Zealand, do they have the slight wobbles when they hit France, their traditional, World Cup rival? I like the way the games are shaping up, and I'm really excited about them.
Yeah, Casho, I indicated, let's start with the New Zealanders. Their worst dreams have come true. The French, they're playing them. The team they played in the last final that has been said in previous shows, and I think we've indicated too, France should have won the World Cup final. Whether they were the best team in the world for the previous years didn't matter. But I guess in many ways it's a worst possible outcome for New Zealand to meet France in the quarterfinals.
That boys, that was the one it was always destined to be, and I think this New Zealand side has grown considerably since that particular time. So they're a pretty fragile side in 2007. They're yet to be tested, and I think France will give it a good go. So, but for me, throughout the quarterfinals, I think it probably fallen in place pretty much as a lot of people have predicted, but the team of the tournament really, despite who wins it, I think it's going to be Japan. I think in many ways, I think Japan getting through, winning 3 of their 4 games. The only 3 or 4 they will not make through to the quarterfinals. So a bit tragic on that front, but in many ways, I think in some ways, and I was talking to some people involved with the Sunwolves today, and they said in some ways, if this sort of keeps the bread alive, it's a positive note rather than going through the finals and maybe getting pumped big time by the Wallabies. But I think the 8 teams that are there probably the best 8 teams at the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about how Japan sort of feel like they got ripped off just because of the draw, and I'll say what probably should have happened for them to get through to the quarterfinals. But Ben, what do you think? New Zealand, France.
Well, this is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to this game. This is a game all about the mental state of rugby, the mental state of a team. I saw Timmy Horan tweet this the other day, and I absolutely agree. After watching France lose to Ireland, having seen the way that they're travelling, having seen the firepower that New Zealand has, New Zealand should win by 20. They really should win that game by 20. It should not be a close match. But the history and the way these teams think, it's going to put it on the line, and you hope that it turns into a real ding-dong battle. The French, they're one of those teams who live up to the old cliches, that they are a team that has no real game plan, plays through the heart, but can turn it on and become an amazing rugby force for games that they just get up for. and for some reason New Zealand gets the French blood flowing, and I can see it happening in this one. I really think New Zealand by 20, but I love it that anything could happen.
Yeah, I think so.
It's
Just cash cow.
interesting voice, really, isn't it? Because New Zealand can play.
Let's just interrupt him.
Is that the red wine or the connection?
Rugby World Cup. They have
sorry, mate, keep going.
But they can play the direct game, which they did against us in Auckland.
Yeah, they can cash cow.
I think Cash Cow just upgraded the 56k kilowatt motor, didn't he?
Who are you with, Telstra? Yeah, I think we both are. Oh dear, I think we are. Thank you. The NBN is working beautifully. So sorry to everyone else overseas. We'll wait till we come back a bit less pixelated. But the other quarterfinal, of course, is the next one is Ireland v Argentina. I sent Kissy a text and said, well done. First phase is over, and he said that, I won't say how we interact with each other, but it's not actually for this platform, but what I will say is that, his first comment was the Aussies have been awesome, and that the Argies are going to be tough. So, and given, a few injury scares and the tragic loss of their warrior and Paul O'Connell, devastating for Ireland. So a little bit of test for them, and, they would have absolutely freaked out if Johnny Sexton couldn't make it through the rest of the tournament. Yeah,
Johnny Sexton going off, followed by their open side, followed by Paul Connell. I don't know if they're in that order. You would have felt the tightening up in the coach's box. Ireland, though, you probably look at one of those teams that perhaps can weather some of those injuries a bit better than others because they look so well drilled. They look like a squad when they play. I thought that when Sexton went out and Madigan came on, he brought a fair bit to their game. Had a couple of errors, but really sparked it and gave them a little bit more. I thought that the replacement was Henderson, I think the replacement second rower, brought something to the game. O'Connell would be a big loss though. Yeah, and Sean O'Brien as well. Casho, you're back. Look at you. Well, you can talk now.
Well, I was waiting for the cue, boys, but the loss of O'Connell is significant. I did like some of the play that the young 5'8" that came on Madigan did in the place of Sexton. So listen, there, as you said, it's all been about a squad with Ireland, and they are bringing sort of people through because they do know that there is life after this Rugby World Cup. There's a Six Nations just around the corner. So it's they have the troops, they have the cattle to get through this, what will be a very testing quarterfinal against Argentina, who have looked very good at different times in this tournament.
Yeah, but the other thing they've got is a very smart coaching team. I was saying to a couple of my Kiwi friends at Channel 7 that you blokes have done nothing yet. You sort of laboured through the World Cup and haven't really flexed their muscles as far as I'm concerned. They haven't really played anyone of note, I feel anyway. But I think the thing is that Ireland, I believe they have the smartest coaching team, and I think they will have stuff up their sleeve. There's no doubt Les Kears has set the standard for defence. And blokes like Nathan Gray learnt his craft from Les Kiss. For a rugby league winger, he's done an amazing job, isn't he? But the rest of that coaching staff is very, very good. And I think Ireland have got a lot more to come when it comes to the intellectual side as we head into the World Cup. What do you reckon, Ben?
Yeah, look, I think that's right. And you watched that Ireland-France game, and France didn't really seem to have a game plan, and we discussed game plans last week.
That's unusual.
Yeah, you discussed game plans last week and the way different teams approach it. And quite an unfair comment about the Wallabies would be they don't have a game plan per se. Like they don't go out and say we're going to kick to the corners, etc. They play their game and they play their game very well. Whereas you can see a team like Ireland has really tried to probably deconstruct the opposition. Yeah. The Ireland went back to some of the things we've seen from them before. They attacked the ball and tried to keep the ball up very high off the ground. Against France, and they attack them in a certain way, and you can see they'll shift and move. Australia, to a certain extent, will be a known entity, but when they play with the passion and the power that they've got, that's what makes them most competitive.
All right, Casho, that's your cue.
Well, boys, I'm thinking that I'm sort of throwing forward to the discussion about the Australia-Wales game. And in many respects, I think Sean Edwards took a bit of a leaf out of the Les Kiss Auckland 2011 at Eden Park book, and they hold up the fence. It saves the opposition from getting a quick ball from which the Wallabies sort of thrive on. And that's very much the case. Intellectual property, I think, is there in abundance with Ireland, and I think that's going to at least get them through to a semi-final, maybe a semi-final against the Wallabies.
There could be a trademark infringement here, Cash Cow.
There could well be. I'm not sure if Les actually patented that particular style of defence, but we saw it the Waratahs, I think, Bronk, in your time there. We saw it with Ireland at Eden Park in 2011, and we saw it with Wales in 2015 at Twickenham. So very, very effective, and brought the Wallabies back to the pack to a certain extent.
All right, Ben. So what about Argentina? In 2007, they really shook up the comp. Sort of suited them though, because that was the worst World Cup of all time.
It was pretty ordinary.
So what can they do this weekend?
Yeah, look, I don't feel like Argentina have moved enough to be a genuine contender. They've always been on that fringe there. They've always been a team that you think one day might get there. They've good elements to their game. I don't think we've seen a complete enough game to see them move ahead too far. The World Cup is shaping up like the powers. Unless France can shake New Zealand, it's going to be the Southern Hemisphere, and either Ireland or Wales may be stepping up the way it shapes up at the moment.
Yeah, but you just got to be careful. I mean, a slip up against Argentina, just say it's wet and it's tight and it's a kick off. That's when Argentina can be really lethal.
Yeah, they do love a good tight game,
yeah.
And they've got the forwards to keep it tight and to stick it in that area. The kicking game's not too bad too, so anything could happen, true, but you've got to stick with the favourites.
Yeah, but what I like, Casho, is the Ireland's forwards have really come on, haven't they? They've muscled up in recent times, and I think that's really been the key, I think, to their success recently. They've really outperformed. I don't even want to say that they've played above their weight, but they've really impressed the last 2 years, say.
Well, the physicality that they're bringing to this particular part of the game, you've got to be physical, and this is what all the teams are finding. If you're not physical, if you're not winning that breakdown, you're just not in these test matches, and they're building through it sort of quite nicely, I think. Looking.
Yeah, agreed, Cash Cow. As he goes off, thank you, MBN.
Lisa's hanging again.
So we might, I rushed to New Zealand, but let's go back to the first quarterfinal, and that's Russia, South, and Cash has just disappeared for a while. He'll come back in a second. This will be going on all night. Russia and Republic of South Africa against Wales. This is going to be a great, fascinating game, isn't it?
It is. It is. Wales have consistently found a way to be competitive. They've been beaten and battered from pillar to post right through the start before the tournament. They've come through. They put in a fantastic effort against the Wallabies, and unfortunately, for them, didn't get the points. But I tell you what, South Africa and Wales, a clash like that, a tight physical game, I think that's going to be a belter. I think South Africa. One of the points that keeps being made on the broadcast from a few of the broadcasters is how no team has won the World Cup with ever dropping a game. I don't really see that as a factor now. No. I mean, after losing to Japan, I think that's not quite the kind of losing to another team. That's more about another power. That's more about getting a kick up the backside when they needed it. And I think they're coming in very good shape. I think it's a big ask for Wales, having gone through what they've gone through. But I think it'll be a tight game.
Yeah, Casho, Wales have actually been the centre of all the pumping and scintillating games, haven't they? And it looks like they're going to be in front of another one.
Yeah, very much that. And I do agree with Ben here in saying that South Africa have actually worked their way well into the tournament after that hiccup at the start against Japan. A planned strategy, perhaps not.
Yes.
I think
Yeah. Yes. Casho's never made more sense than he has
strategy,
tonight.
South Africa actually moved into the tournament. I think they've benefited from. I think they've benefited from the loss of the captain Jean de Villiers, because they're a bit more dynamic in the middle of the field, and they've got they've got people like there's experience and gas on the outside. Brian Habana, Demonde Delonde is going along sort of quite nicely. There's they've got a lot of they've got a lot of tools on the outside to really do some damage. So I think Wales are really going to be pushing up against it.
Yeah, I think so. But you know what?
They'll come up with a really good game plan.
But you know what, Ben? I think I think everyone's waiting for Wales to really fool the bits, but they're not doing that.
Yeah, and that's the danger. I think that Checker clearly wouldn't have bought into that and kept the Wallabies well prepared, but. When you looked at those games, you kept thinking, well, Wales, something's got to give with the amount that they've gone through. But we talked before about culture versus game plans. Well, maybe it's forging something, that real belief in each other. Maybe that's bringing something to life in the team. Having to face that adversity means they're driving into each game with a really strong, sharp focus.
All right, so I think we're probably tipping South Africa to win that quarter-final. New Zealand the other one, and Ireland the other. So the final one, and it's Australia v Scotland. Casho, I might give you first shot at this. Let's see if your bits and bytes are actually working. It's not a good sign as I look over my shoulder. But Australia and Scotland, what do you think? Doesn't think much at all. Okay, so Ben Kimbo, I'll go straight to you.
Get off that fence, Casho.
There he goes again. So this is the best show he's ever had, Casho. He's never made more sense. So Ben... this is one Australia should win, but you never, ever discount the Bravehearts. I mean, they're just so... They're really awkward to play, and I think Australia has to be careful.
And that's why this is a danger game. Getting up for the pool of death, 2 massive games in a row. I mean, I even had some of my mates saying to me, oh, surely we'll rest players. Like, rest players for a quarter-final would be the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. It's a knockout World Cup.
Did you slap them around, mate?
Oh, he was over the phone. I would have slapped him if he was close. But I even saw a bit of that speculation. Not speculation, but I saw a couple of rubbish stories in the press about, oh no, the Wallabies are thinking about keeping everyone in the game. They won't rest anyone. Well, why on earth would you? 2 out of 3 of the last we've lost to Scotland. Scotland have beaten us. The Scots have not a world champion team, but they have a good solid side that can cause trouble. They've been the dark horse, in a few different games here and there. And I think they scored a few impressive points against Samoa that showed that they can move the ball too.
Yeah, and this is a sort of environment that the Scots love. It's the desperation of a playoff like this, and when there's just no tomorrow. And as you've said, like the scrap in Newcastle a few years ago, that just showed Australia that if they do take the Scottish lightly, and what if the weather turns bad? Look out.
And it's a challenge for Checker again, getting the team up for those big games, now keeping them up for a game like Scotland, particularly as I think Checker keeps proving people wrong. He proved me wrong last week in that I thought if it's a tight penalty fest, that the Wales game, they would win it, because the penalty kicking that they've got over ours, the accuracy, I thought that would be a problem for us, and I thought we would have to score a few tries to win it. It turned into an absolute slugfest, and the Wallabies came out on top. So now Checker's got a new challenge up against Scotland to get the team back up for that one.
All right, let's talk about a Casho as you rejoin us. You're just chipping in and out here. This is fantastic. But Casho, keep up. Everyone's raving about that defensive performance by the Australians, which also gives Wales credit because they kept coming at Australia. So they had plenty to do. Down to 13 men after losing 2 players to the sin bin at the same time. How did you rate it, Casho?
Well, it was obviously one of the great Wallaby performances over the last 30 or 40 years, to be sort of perfectly honest. But one has got to ask, for the 14 minutes that the Wallabies were undermanned, why did Wales keep trying to bash through the middle of the Wallaby defensive
100%.
line?
I couldn't believe what they were doing.
Why did they not try to play the numbers game? draw a few people in, keep spreading it wide, keep coming around the corner. It's a simple game, rugby, and you've just got to exhaust the numbers on the outside. And I think if they kept coming around that outside and kept stretching the Wallabies, that try line would have been breached by Wales at one particular time during that 40 minutes when Australia were down first to 14 men and then to 13 men. So a bit of a tactical glitch there, I think, by the Wales on-field management. But listen, it's the thing of dreams, really, and it's the making of a team to be perfect, to come through that for the scrum to go so well. The scrum is now a weapon, and I think that's being acknowledged. And we're going to be refereed in a different manner from here on in, so that can only be good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you reckon, Ben? Like, I couldn't believe Wales were just battering it up, and I think the old move just called hands, and they would have had an overlap.
They did worryingly seem a little bit bereft of leadership right in that. They clearly panicked. The one time they looked like they were about to go wide was when Ashley Cooper shut it down at the last piece, and I think was it Beale who got his hands on the ball, and the penalty came Australia's way. But you're dead right. It was one off the ruck, maybe two off the ruck, try to smash their way through. And the Wallabies' commitment was excellent. The 13 men, though, one thing I did want to ask you boys was Dean Mumm's yellow card. Did that seem very harsh to you? I heard someone maybe mention it was repeated infringement, but I don't recall him being talked to about touching the player in the air. And it looked like a little bit of a tickle to me. It didn't look like anything too serious.
It was definitely a penalty. There's no doubt about that. He can't do that to a man in the air. But I don't know if it was like a team, too many infringements by the team.
Yeah. It's the Joubert effect, isn't it, mate?
But gee, it set a great defensive standard, didn't it, for Australia? You know what? It sent a warning to the rest of the comp, and I think they've sent a warning with the scrum. Holy cow, they can actually scrum, and they can tackle. The desperation, like some of the stuff, even Bernard Foley, some of the stuff he did to bring down some of the bigger Welsh backs. They're big boys, Welsh backs, and even if he didn't put the big hit on, he put enough to disrupt them, and then it was someone else to clean up. And the experience. We've got the experienced lad at the back here, Cash Cow, but someone like Adam Ashley Cooper, we're all big fans of him, because he's a decent sort of bloke, and it's his sort of experience that will absolutely count, and it counted the other day for Australia as they head into these elimination rounds.
And that's that point I was making before around the way that these teams hit the quarters. Now, New Zealand should absolutely have too much class for France, but whether they're in the kind of shape that, say, South Africa and the Wallabies are now at this stage of the tournament with a couple of games to go, or whether they might need a couple of grinders in the quarters and the semis to feel like they can peak at the right time in that final, remains to be seen.
What do you say, Cash Cow?
Ron, you mentioned Bernard Foley there, and listen, he has really stepped up big time. Really, there are numerous doubters out there about him.
There's one right here
about him being a world test class fly half.
I'm sitting right here.
One of them was a very good friend of ours, Greg Growden, who didn't think he thought he was a very good Super Rugby player, but he listened in these last two games, and Greg has actually mentioned this in his scribblings for the ESPN Scrum website, and that he's really sort of stepped up and absolutely surprised him. That tackle he made on George North out wide was 9 out of 10 fly halves would have just gone, I'll see you later. I'm not putting my body on the line, but he put his body on the line. He got in the way, and Big Dog McCalman got under him and saved the match. What a crucial play! What a player he's. He got 5 out of 6, I think, that night, and is kicking very, very confident, and could well be a World Cup winner by the end of all this.
Well, as long as if Ben or Greg had listened to me, they'll be sweet.
Mate, I've always said, let's just keep it up, mate. I always said keep it up.
He's done all right. He's done all right. Casho, there was no stopping him. Once he got a roll on, these pixels going, he just bang. He was going all the way. It was a tremendous effort. After all the battles, great battles of the pool games, Ben, if it goes to plan, the quarters could be a bit of a fizzer.
Yeah, mate, as I said, the favourites are really starting to come to the fore, and I think there'll be a surprise in there. the way that the World Cup's shaping up.
What's your, if there's going to be a surprise, which game is going to have the surprise in it?
I'll go with my heart, not my head, mate, and I'll say France.
Yes.
I mean, one of the
France.
greatest games I've ever attended was that New Zealand-France game in '99.
Yeah.
When the Kiwis were on top, thinking they're cruising to a victory, and then the French just turned it on like nothing else and ripped their heart out. And I think we saw their heart thumping on the pitch for a couple of hours afterwards. But I would absolutely love to see that game turn into a genuine stinkathon between those two sides. And I think that might not be a bad thing for New Zealand if they've got to scrap their way through that game, because there's some bigger games coming as well in the semi and the final. So I'll circle that one just because, as I said, it might be a surprise, because the French may decide that something's on.
Something's on.
And also, boys, I think that Wales South Africa. I think like the head says South Africa, but the heart says, geez, this Wales side, they're absolutely heroic. They're down on troops. They're still putting in. They're putting their body on the line. And quite easily, they could surprise this South Africa side, who have been reasonably static and haven't really been tested over the past 3 or 4 weeks. So Wales battle-hardened. There's an upset there, I reckon.
Didn't Wales come out of the gates really well against Australia? Like, Australia came into that game as strong favourites. I thought far too strong favourites. I think they were $1.30 or something. But they came out of the gates so well and so passionately. And Australia, who has been priding themselves on that approach and making sure they're ready and up for it, were on the back foot immediately, and that really set a tone for the game. And to the Wallabies' credit, as we've all talked about, they worked their way back into it, and then that defensive period really set the tone for a fantastic World Cup. But Wales have got something, but I worry that as we talked about, they might start to hit the end of the road.
What about Will Genia's service? What did you think of it against Wales?
Genia seems to still be operating in that okay zone. He's nowhere near the Genia from a couple of years ago, but there isn't an obvious replacement there in Phibbs, because he's been a bit worrisome. But Genia is reliable but not effective. If I can talk about the way that I've talked about Bernard Foley, about whether he's a good 5'8" or whether he's an international class 5'8", Genia's not playing like the international class player that we know he is. But he's doing enough to operate in this level, at this level.
I think there's a lift when Phibbs comes up. There's no doubt his service is quicker. And Casho, yes, quickly.
No, I'm just saying that I agree with Ben wholeheartedly. I think Will Genia has got to be at the front end of the game, but I think Nick Phipps has got to see a lot more game time, because Will is probably getting a bit have a look and throw a harbour bridge every so often. Nick, when he came on this time through, listen, he was very disconcerting against England when he came on. But when he came on against Wales, he was certain about where he wanted to be, and I think Bernard Foley operates just a little bit better. With that little nanosecond that he gets with the Nick Phipps service, so it's a hard decision. Either way, it's there's pluses and minuses there. So, but stick with what you got. Get experience at the front end of the game, because it's it's a bit more static at the front end, and then bring Phipps on maybe at the 50th minute to open things up, and then guys like Folau and Foley can run around and run through.
All right, mate. So you've got a minute to talk about NRC, and I hear you're making your last-minute charge for the finals.
That's right. The mighty Macquarie University North Harbour Race still in the contest for the finals. We need to beat New South Wales Country in Bathurst on the weekend by 44 points, earn a bonus point, and I think the Stars have got to beat the Melbourne Rising, or the Melbourne Rising have got to beat the Stars, something like that. Some bizarre...
The Stars have to align, do they, mate? Is that what has to go on?
Circumstances. Quite long odds. Listen, if I wasn't involved in the management of the rugby team, I'd be putting money on it. A lazy $10 just to see how the Rays went, and obviously clean up like Ben Kimber and others used to do on the Shute Shield all those years ago. But listen, Brisbane City and University of Canberra Vikings, very odds on, I think, to play in the final of this National Rugby Championship. But the mighty Rays, 50-32 winner over Queensland Country on the weekend at Rat Park. lovely afternoon there, probably about
afternoon.
1,500 people.
We got to go,
It was
Cash.
a live band after the
great.
game. We all had a good time, and we sang the
mate.
victory
We gotta
song,
go.
which is always
Thanks,
good.
I think we're losing our connection, mate.
Yeah, we are. He held up. Ben Kimber, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Bronk. Looking forward to the quarters,
Great.
mate.
Hey, Casho, you can just say goodbye. Please just say goodbye. All right, goodbye. We'll see you next week. For now.